What happens when unstoppable progress meets unmistakable resistance? Well, tonight we're witnessing an extraordinary collision between President Trump's fulfilled promises and a shocking call to action from Illinois' governor. From the West Wing, where Stephen Miller just spoke to us moments ago, to the halls of state power where unprecedented words are being uttered, something massive is unfolding. We have a series of videos that document both promises made and promises kept, but it's what's happening in response that will leave you speechless. The establishment's reaction to these successes tells you everything about why they are terrified. So watch what comes next. Now, if you're watching the incredible transformation happening in our nation's capital, you know real change takes strength and energy. That's why I'm excited about this breakthrough collagen formula that's helping Americans feel as energized as our country's comeback. Just like President Trump is delivering on his promises to restore America's vitality, this multi-collagen formula is delivering results you can see and feel. In fact, my own energy levels have soared since I started using it. Visit healthwithgary.com. It's linked down below and get 51% off while this special offer lasts. Okay, so this was the big story today. Is an insurrection brewing? Day 99 of Trump's wins. Border crossings down 95%, 800 ICE arrests. But Illinois Governor Pritzker calls for mass protests, saying Republicans cannot know peace. Is he inciting an insurrection against MAGA? Watch my report I just filed at the White House a few hours ago.
Yes, that is a Gary Franchi, Next News Network, coming at you from just outside the West Wing of the White House. Folks, it's April 28, 2025, and I've got a bombshell that is rattling the swamp on day 99 of Trump's historic second term. While Trump's racking up wins, border crossings down 95%, illegals deported in droves, and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is sounding like he wants to burn it all down. Illinois Review broke the story, and I'm bringing you the inside scoop straight from the White House. Now, Pritzker gave a hate-filled speech in New Hampshire, calling for mass protests and disruption, saying Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. Is he inciting an insurrection against Trump's MAGA agenda? Well, let's break it down, because this is the truth they don't want you to hear. It's Trump's 100-day run, and it's a masterclass. Border crossings slash 95% to 7,000 last month. Illegals released down 99% to 9. ICE nabbed 800 criminals in Operation Tidal Wave, and that's Trump delivering on day 99. With MAGA cheering, but Pritzker is stoking chaos. Illinois Review's Mark Vargas, he broke the story, exposing Pritzker's New Hampshire speech as a call to arms against MAGA. Here is Pritzker himself. Roll the video.
Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They have to understand that we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone that we have. We must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box.
Now that's Pritzker calling for mass protests and disruption, saying Republicans, Trump and his 36% MAGA base, can't have peace. He wants to fight their cruelty and punish them at the polls. Well, the reaction has been swift. Let's throw up the first response on screen from Illinois Review's Mark Vargas. He did break the story. Now take a look at this tweet. This is what he said. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker calls for violence against MAGA agenda during hate-filled New Hampshire speech. Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. Lives of everyday citizens are now in danger. Yes, that is a sentiment that is spreading across the web right now, and Vargas is not holding back. Pritzker's speech could put everyday citizens in danger. Now let's see what the legendary Republican strategist Roger Stone had to say. Let's get his reaction up on the screen. The legendary Republican strategist Roger Stone said, if a Republican said this, he would be charged with insurrection. Yes, he would. Roger Stone not mincing any words. He's calling it straight. If a Republican said this, they would be facing insurrection charges. So is Pritzker inciting an insurrection against Trump's government? Well, the Center for Strategic and International Studies defines insurrection as acts of violence and rebellion against the government, and sedition as speech inciting individuals to violently rebel. Now, Pritzker's words, disruption and no peace, fight their cruelty, sounds like a call for chaos, especially when Trump's administration is securing the border and locking up criminals. This isn't just politics. It is a potential threat to stability. This now hits close to home. Last night, I caught Trump on camera seconds after he stepped off Marine One, slamming activist judges for letting world-class criminals stay. Pritzker's speech feels like a direct attack on that mission. Trump's fight to protect Americans from illegal gangs, and now, apparently, Democrat governors stirring the pot. With 59% of voters disapproving of Trump, but 36% standing firm as MAGA warriors, Pritzker's words could spark real trouble. I'm out here by the West Wing. The press is scrambling around me. Now it's time for you to do your part. Repost this video, and we will break this wide open together. And stick with me, folks, because the truth is hitting hard, and it's a firestorm. Outside the West Wing, I'm Gary Franchi for the Next News Network. Gary Franchi.
That was quite a report that I had filed there. But what's even more amazing is that moments later, Stephen Miller had a press gaggle. And I got the first question in as I asked him about Governor Pritzker, and he slammed Pritzker's mass protest call as inciting violence, linking it to left-wing terrorism. Says Democrats wage war on federal law as Trump's border crossings drop. Is it insurrection? Check this out, exclusive.
All across this country.
So have take a few questions.
Stephen, Illinois Governor Pritzker just called for mass protests and disruption, saying Republicans cannot know peace, while Trump's border crossings are down 95% and ICE is locking up 800 criminals. Is Pritzker inciting insurrection, and will DOJ take action?
Well, what I would say is that his comments, if nothing else, clearly could be construed as inciting violence. So President Trump survived 2 assassination attempts against his life. Of course, there's been many more credible threats against President Trump and his family and associates. We've, of course, seen the spate of left-wing domestic terrorism all across this country. By the way, the destruction of property sits directly adjacent to attacks on humans and physical attacks. In other words, once you tolerate and once you allow for attacks on property, you're just a step away from people throwing Molotov cocktails into people's homes. And you've even seen some, I think one example of a formerly prominent Washington Post journalist who seemed to be celebrating the murder of a healthcare CEO, right? Health insurance CEO. And that's the point we've reached in this country, where people are engaging in rhetoric and behavior that puts the lives of public servants in danger, puts the lives of conservative Americans in danger. And so that's the first thing I would say. And then, of course, secondly, right, just this war that Democrat governors and mayors are waging against federal law enforcement. I mean, this is nullificationist behavior. This is successionist behavior, where they're saying they don't recognize the supremacy of federal law enforcement in terms of protecting the lives and livelihoods of American citizens against a foreign invasion. We've never seen anything like it. And of course, the result of their conduct is that they're allowing illegal aliens to go free and rape and murder their own citizens. So I can't imagine having a leader in a city or a state that would privilege the well-being of illegal alien murderers over their own citizens, but that's where we are right now.
So have take a few questions.
Yeah, so that's where we are right now. I want to point out, too, in this press gaggle, there was an encounter. I don't have the clip here, but it is on our X account. An encounter with a hostile journalist who was talking about the deportation of American citizens who were actually children that were taken with their parents who were illegal, and the parents took them on their own, at their own decision, at their own discretion. So the families wouldn't be broken up. And Stephen Miller handled that question amazingly. But what's also interesting is if you take a look in the background here, you'll notice that somebody does walk up, and if you look right over the shoulder of Stephen Miller, that's actually Sean Spicer, who just showed up to the White House, the former press secretary for President Trump. And it was kind of interesting if you just kind of watch him walking up in the background, see him right there. You know, he's carrying some bags. You know, quite an interesting moment. Just the irony of the former press secretary there walking up and capturing some video himself at a press gaggle. So pretty unique. And of course, I did speak to Sean Spicer shortly thereafter. But I thought that was just an interesting thing. I saw a press reporter, a pool reporter, and I asked him, I said, is that Sean Spicer? And he said, yeah. So it was pretty wild. Okay, now let's keep going because we have more on the promises made, promises kept. Let's get to another report I filed, inside scoop from the White House revealing Trump's kept vows, death penalty restored for migrant killers, MS-13 hit with 800 ICE arrests, and Kamala's app axed as crossings crash 94%. Here's my live report from just outside the West Wing earlier today.
Wedding. Now, Gary Franchi, Next News Network, coming at you from just outside the West Wing of the White House. And folks, it's a beautiful afternoon on April 28th, 2025, and this place is buzzing with the raw power of a president who delivers. Now, I'm unleashing a hit called Promises Made, Promises Kept, showcasing 3 videos of Trump laying down unbreakable vows and 3 proving he's turned words into action. This is the Trump revolution, charging full speed, borders locked, criminals on the ropes, and the swamp is sweating. Now, last night, I caught Trump on camera, seconds after he stepped off Marine One, tearing into judges for letting world-class criminals off the hook. And that's the fire we're bringing today. We've got 6 videos that show Trump's promises are rock solid, so let's dive in, because this is the truth the swamp cannot silence. Promise 1, death penalty for migrant killers. First, Trump's unyielding vow to bring justice to illegals who kill Americans. Here is the video.
And I'm hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer.
Now, that is Trump setting a zero-tolerance standard. Kill an American, face the ultimate justice. Now, Stephen Miller at the Department of Justice shows Trump's making it real. Roll the video.
He has also restored the death penalty at the Department of Justice, including for illegal aliens who commit murder, including for those who murder cops, and including for all of those who threaten Americans with heinous acts of violence. The death penalty is back. Law and order is back. The streets are being made safe once again.
That's right. Trump brought back the death penalty for illegal alien murderers, especially those targeting cops. Miller's declaration is proof that law and order is back, and Trump's promise is ironclad, unlike Biden's week on crime mess. Now, promise 2, eradicate MS-13. Next, Trump's iron-fisted commitment to wipe out MS-13, the brutal gangs terrorizing communities like Virginia. Here's the video.
I'm going to work with your governor, and we're going to get MS-13 out of Virginia within 1 month. 1 month.
1 month. That is Trump demanding results.
What I want to do, I want to have other governors, other law enforcement officers come here to Virginia and see this amazing task force, Governor, that is led by our agencies and Governor Youngkin, and what's happening here in Virginia. Arrests have increased 468% from the same period last year. We didn't need new laws, as President Trump always said. We needed a new president. And we have great leadership standing behind him to fight to keep America safe and make America safe again. We will keep your community safe, and we will continue to do that.
We are in the beginning stages of carrying out the largest deportation campaign in American history. Over this past weekend, it was announced that through Operation Tidal Wave, a joint effort between ICE Miami and Florida law enforcement agencies, nearly 800 illegal aliens were arrested during the first 4 days alone. Among those arrested were a Colombian murderer, alleged MS-13 and 18th Street gang members, and a Russian with a red notice for manslaughter. And on the other side of the country, in the early Sunday morning hours, DOJ and DHS together launched a joint raid of an illegal alien underground nightclub used by Tren de Aragua in Colorado Springs, Colorado. DHS took more than 100 illegal aliens into custody, and many drugs and weapons were also seized. Operation Tidal Wave is a preview of what is to come around this country. Large-scale operations that employ our state and local enforcement partners to get criminal illegal aliens off our streets.
There it is. 800 illegals, including MS-13 thugs, locked up in days. Homan's Operation Tidal Wave is a juggernaut, hammering Florida and paving the way for Virginia. Trump's one-month vow, he's delivering and making streets safer. Now, promise 3, stop migrant flights and apps. Finally, Trump's pledge to dismantle Biden's migrant pipelines, those flights and apps fueling the invasion. Here's the video.
The migrant flights will end, and Kamala's app for illegals will be shut down immediately within 24 hours.
Now that's Trump vowing to slam the border shut. Now let's move on to Caroline Leavitt confirming that he has crushed it.
On another very important issue for the president, he continues to work hard to secure the border. If you missed it yesterday, CBP launched an enhanced home mobile app with a new feature, the Intent to Depart, which offers unlawfully present aliens or those aliens whose parole has been revoked an orderly and defined process to notify the U.S. government of their intent to depart the country. The CBP Home app strengthens our mission to secure the border and provides illegal aliens with a straightforward way to leave now before facing much harsher consequences later. A new report from Bloomberg just found that the number of aliens trying to reach our country by traveling through the jungle to Central America dropped a whopping 99% last month. And this follows the incredible news that illegal border crossings plummeted last month as well, down 94% at our southern border from last February under the Biden administration.
Done deal. Biden's CBP-1 app, Kamala's open border scheme is history, and Trump's CBP Home Act pushes illegals to leave, slashing crossings 94% from last February, and jungle routes 99%. Migrant flights grounded. Trump said 24 hours, and he made it happen. Now, these 6 videos are Trump's legacy roaring to life. Death penalty for killers, MS-13 in chains, and Biden's migrant scams obliterated. The left is reeling. Pew says 59% disapprove, whining about chaos, but 36% of voters are MAGA warriors, and they are fired up. So my exclusive video from last night where Trump slammed the courts for shielding criminals shows he's all in on this fight. I'm out here by the West Wing, the press hustling around, delivering the unfiltered truth. So stick with me, folks, because I'll be here all week covering Trump's big wins, spanning his first 100 days. For the Next News Network, I'm Gary Franchi.
Yeah, exciting day at the White House. I'm still coming down from the high, let me just tell you, for real. But we're going to keep going because we got to get into even more promises made and kept. While the fake news was busy lying to you about our border, President Trump was quietly working to fulfill every campaign pledge he made. The deep state couldn't stop him, the courts couldn't block him, and the establishment is in panic mode. Let's dive a little deeper. President Trump said, "I will end catch and release, and I will restore remain in Mexico." He said it during the campaign. That was the promise.
I will end catch and release. I will restore remain in Mexico. Remember, I got it done with the Mexican government. Remain in Mexico.
And here is the promise fulfilled.
On day one, I declared a national emergency on our southern border. I sent our military to the border to secure the sovereign territory of the United States of America. We ended catch and release. We began the largest deportation operation in American history, larger even than that of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. You know, he was on day one.
And here we have more. President Trump, the promise: we will stop the invasion of illegals into our country. We will not be conquered.
Defend our territory. We will close the border. We will stop the invasion of illegals into our country. We will defend our territory. We will not be conquered. We will not be conquered.
And now the promise fulfilled. Check it out.
This almost changed overnight.
It
When you
did,
think
yeah.
about those images, the before images, those lasted for years under the last administration. And you're talking, and I believe it was Tom Homan who said it, he said, this happened in 5 weeks, this change at the border. Were you surprised how fast it got cleaned up?
I mean, it was overnight almost, basically. I mean, within a matter of weeks. And just think about how many times we were essentially told, don't believe your lying eyes. The border is closed. The border is secure. They said that over and over and over as we're doing live shots down there with a total free-for-all. You know, it's just crazy to see the change now.
But this almost...
Here we have President Trump on the campaign trail. I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. He was talking about Operation Aurora will dismantle every migrant. I remember when he said that, I was like, holy cow. I remember the promise. You will too.
Aurora. I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. That's where we had to go. To target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil. We will call it Operation Aurora. We want to pay tribute to Aurora, Colorado. The governor there is a radical left Democrat. He is petrified. The guy doesn't want to walk out of his mansion. And if they come back into our country, it's an automatic 10 years in jail with no possibility of parole. So we keep them out. And I am hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer.
Now, if you got this far into the video, you clearly like what President Trump is doing, so smash that like button right now, because now we have the promise fulfilled.
People that are on, we have deported over 120 people that are on the known terrorist watch list out of this country, over 800 TDA members, in over 100,000 different arrests have been made of criminals that are out of this country. Every single family that can identify with Laken Riley's family, Jocelyn Nungary's family, people who were devastated by these criminals are thankful that they're gone, and President Trump is on the right side of history. Doesn't
it feel good to be on the right side of history? Here we have the press secretary. President Trump promised to defend women's sports from the radical gender ideology. He vowed that in America, we will recognize the biological truth.
In sports, or same thing with men in women's sports. The president signed a very strong executive order, making it the policy of the United States federal government that there are only two sexes, male and female, and we are not going to tolerate biological men competing in sports or impeding in private spaces for women like myself or you. And we've seen states defy this federal order. You've seen the state of Maine, unfortunately, because of their liberal governor, who nobody in that state disagrees with, I will add, being from New England, I can attest to that. People are incredibly fed up with her trying to oppose this common sense message. You've seen young women who have had to go on television to plead with their governor, please stop letting men play against me in sports. We shouldn't live in a country where that even has to happen. The president deeply understands that. That's why he signed that EO. And when Maine decided not to follow it, the Department of Justice sued them. So anyone who disobeys federal law will be either prosecuted, sued, or say goodbye to your federal funding.
And here is the promise fulfilled. Trump has signed over 140 executive orders in just 99 days.
Today officially marks the 99th day of promises made and kept by President Trump. Our primary focus today is how President Trump has fulfilled one of his central campaign promises to the American people in record time, ending the massive illegal invasion and securing our nation's southern and northern borders. As we know, Joe Biden allowed millions of criminal illegal aliens to pour into our country over the past 4 years. And as we all know, a significant number of those aliens have been vicious gang members, murderers, rapists, and pedophiles. Innocent Americans like Laken Riley, Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Morin, and many others have been murdered because of Joe Biden's open border. President Trump made a promise to the American people, to all of you and your audiences, to end the carnage and keep our country safe. And he has overwhelmingly delivered on that promise. He immediately declared a national emergency on the southern border, deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion, and ended reckless catch and release policies. And as a result, between the inauguration and April 1st of this month, only 9 illegal aliens were released into the United States of America. This is a staggering 99.99% decrease from more than the 184,000 illegal aliens who were released into the country under Joe Biden during that same period last year. You can't get much better than 99.99% decrease. Total attempted illegal crossings at the southwest border hit a record low in February, only to fall to another record low again last month in March. President Trump signed the Lake and Riley Act into law, requiring illegal aliens arrested or charged with theft or violence to be detained. And he reestablished the successful Remain in Mexico policy from his first term. The president has also restarted construction of his signature border wall. More than 85 miles have been built and are in various stages of construction and planning. He designated cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, invoked the Alien Enemies Act to apprehend, detain, and remove these massive threats who have flooded our country. And the Trump administration, as you heard from our border czar Tom Homan earlier today, is working literally 24/7 around the clock to successfully arrest and deport illegal criminals and foreign terrorists from our communities, your communities. We're in the beginning stages of carrying out the largest deportation campaign in American history. And despite the legacy media's fear-mongering and lies about this, we will continue with these successful operations because we know that's what the American people are expecting from this president, and that's why they overwhelmingly reelected him to this office.
Trump promised to put whistleblowers who expose corruption ahead of leakers who endanger our troops. The deep state thought they could hide their crimes forever, but Trump vowed to protect the truth tellers who expose the rot in the system. Here's more from the press secretary earlier today.
Is at the Treasury. I can tell you certainly the president commends anyone who steps out and speaks the truth, especially against the malpractice that we saw over the last 4 years under the previous administration. I could speak to the 2 cases at the Treasury Department. The 2 whistleblowers there who blew the whistle on the Hunter Biden tax fraud case have been promoted by Secretary Bessent. So certainly we commend anyone who has the courage to step up and speak the truth. And as for those who unfortunately try to leak, especially classified information to the legacy media to put our troops in harm's way, our law enforcement officials at harm's way, leaks like that will not be tolerated. But those who are seeking to protect the truth will certainly be commended and applauded for that.
Promise fulfilled. President Trump signed an executive order requiring English literacy tests for truckers.
About the Uber drivers. And then the third executive order, which actually speaks to the heart of your question earlier about the Uber drivers, will be a order directing the Department of Transportation to include English literacy tests for our truckers. This is a big problem in the trucking community that, unless you're in that community, you might not know. But there's a lot of communication problems between truckers on the road with federal officials and local officials as well, which obviously is a public safety risk. So we're going to ensure that our truckers, who are the backbone of our economy, are all able to speak English. That's a very common sense policy in the United States of America. So the president will be signing that later this afternoon.
So the America First agenda is delivering exactly what was promised: to secure borders, safer communities, and an end to the globalist open border nightmare. In just 99 days, President Trump has fulfilled campaign promises the establishment politicians failed to deliver for decades. This is just the beginning. The great American comeback is in full swing, and there's nothing that they can do to stop it. All right, so what we're witnessing tonight isn't just about kept promises. It's about the establishment's desperate response to real change. When a governor calls for mass protests and declares that Republicans cannot know peace in response to Trump's successes, you have to ask, who is really inciting insurrection? What are they so afraid of? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because we want to hear what you think about this unprecedented reaction to promises kept. All right, and make sure you go ahead and hit that merch shop down below, shop.nextnewsnetwork.com, and show the world where you get your real news.